so much for being here. I can't begin to express how excited I am for the state of Michigan, for all of the efforts that we're putting in here, and that you're all here to help join us in this. My name is Lana Theis. I'm the state representative for the 42nd District, which is the southeastern section of Livingston County. I've been traveling around the state because this is my passion. I desperately want to see rate relief for the drivers in Michigan. Every day I'm hearing from residents all across the state, wherever I go, that their auto insurance is too high. So that has been my driving factor, that has been our driving factor in coming up with solutions on this. We wanted our residents to know that their voices are being heard. The system is broken, it's unsustainable, and it has to be fixed. These skyrocketing prices have to stop. Over the past 8 months, we've been working tirelessly with dozens of stakeholders from both sides of the aisle to try to create a solution to Michigan's no-fault system, with the primary goal being that our drivers are going to see the rate relief that they need all across the state. For far too long, action on this issue has been waylaid and stymied by the people who tend to gain from the system. They're supporting status quo. We aren't. We want to see absolute change. So today we're proud to announce legislation backed by a bipartisan coalition of leaders around the state. We may not always agree on much. Frankly, we don't agree on an awful lot. But we all agree on this. The system is broken, it's unsustainable, and it absolutely has to be fixed. So I want to thank everyone who has been an integral part of getting this done for the past 8 months. I want to thank them for their tireless work. Specifically, Speaker Leonard and Mayor Duggan, thank you so much for your willingness to partner with me on this. And now I'm going to turn it over to the Speaker of the House, Tom Leonard.
Well, I want to thank all of you for being here. I'm going to start off much like I did this weekend when I was speaking at a conference with the number 2,300. That is the most recent figure that came out during the last month, the average rate of what our citizens are paying for their auto insurance here in the state of Michigan, more than 20% higher than the next highest state. And this is a problem that is affecting real citizens around the state. I had the honor of attending a town hall several months ago with Representative Santana, and I know this was the biggest issue on the minds of the people at that town hall. We were speaking to citizens who were paying anywhere in the ballpark of $3,500 to $5,000 per year for their auto insurance, and these were not individuals with bad driving records. These were good, upstanding citizens that simply could no longer afford their auto insurance. And it doesn't stop there. I've been to Muskegon, I've been to Marquette, I've been to Birmingham, I've been around the entire state. And this is always one of the first two questions that comes up. What are you all doing in Lansing to lower our auto insurance rates? People can no longer afford this. It is hurting real families across the state. And I could not be more proud to stand here and support this legislation. As you know, this legislature has been working on this for decades. But this is the first plan, and we're going to let the mayor get into this in just a moment, but this is the first plan that is going to offer real rate relief to the citizens of our state. In fact, it's not just going to offer it, it is going to mandate it. And again, I could not be more proud to stand here today. Now, I do, as you see, we have a massive coalition. Very seldom do you see something come up in this town that has a coalition this big. And look at the number of legislators that are here, real everyday citizens. And I want to introduce some of them if I could. And I apologize if I forget anybody. This has been a moving list. Some names have been added, some have been taken off. But we've got Reverend Wendell Anthony here from the NAACP and his team. We've got Bishop Andrew Merritt from Straight Gate International Ministries. We have KB Stallworth, the Black Caucus Foundation, Cindy Paskey, S3, David Meters here from DTE. We have Matt Cullen here from Bedrock. We have attorney Mark Bernstein here from the Bernstein Law Firm. We have Mike Nevin here from the Detroit Firefighters. Joe Valenti from the Teamsters 2014. Rick Pruce from IBEW Local 58. Mark Young, DPCSA. Jim Curran, Michigan Association of Police Organizations. Mark Diaz from DFFA, Jimmy Settles from the UAW. We have Rich Studley from the President and CEO of the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. If he's not here yet, I know Ambassador.
He's here.
All right, Ambassador Weiser just walked in the room. He is here with us today. We have several Republican legislators and Democrat legislators, and I know Representative Scott Dienda will be walking in very shortly, but wanted it to be known that he is going to be here today. We have the Director of Department of Insurance and Financial Services, Pat McFarland. And going back to the many ministers that we have here today, again, we have Bishop Andrew Merritt, Reverend Jim Hilley, Reverend Curtis Williams, Pastor Sean Holland, Reverend Gerald Cardwell, Reverend Larry Simmons, and Pastor Weldon Smith. So as you can see here, we have a very broad coalition. And that's what it's going to take to get this done. I've been very clear for several weeks. I don't believe there will be enough votes in either caucus, the Republican caucus or the Democrat caucus alone, to get this done. This has to be done in a bipartisan fashion, working together, bringing 55 members in the House, 20 in the Senate, and then a governor's signature to offer and demand real rate relief to the citizens of our state. So before Lastly, before I introduce our next speaker, I just want to thank him from the bottom of my heart. Mayor Mike Duggan has done an exceptional job. When we met about this issue months ago, maybe even over a year ago, when we were talking about the de-insurance solution that was being floated several months ago, we both came to a mutual agreement that this is something that has to apply statewide for all the citizens of our state. They all need to experience real rate relief, and I have to tell you, I've yet to see few people that have been better at not just listening, but building a better coalition than the mayor that we have here today. And folks, I could not be more proud to introduce my friend, Mayor Mike Duggan. So Mayor, let's go get this done.
Well, this is a day that you might not have thought you would see. Bipartisanship in Lansing. There's been a roundabout way of getting here. We have had times where Senator Arlen Meekhoff, who has been a leader on this issue for years, has pushed issues to bring down auto rates with Republican support and not Democratic support. Last year, he was then Representative Leonard attempted to do the same thing. Last year, I tried to pass a bill that was for Detroit and not for the rest of the state. And what we found was, all working separately, we could never actually get to a majority. And so Speaker Leonard said to me, maybe we're looking at this all wrong. What if you take the principles that you were proposing for Detroit, and what if they benefited everybody in the state? And if you look at the report that'll be in your press packet from consumer.org, $2,400 a year to insure a car in Michigan, the highest in the United States. Louisiana is the next highest at $1,900. In Ohio, they're at $900, about a third of what Michigan residents are paying. This is a problem everywhere in the state. Interestingly enough, the fastest rising auto insurance rates in the state of Michigan right now are in Macomb County. The problem is spreading to a lot of other places. And so in 1973, when no fault was passed, the Michigan legislature promised us there'd be no more lawsuits. It was going to be nobody's fault. Your rates are going to go down, the lawsuits are going to end. Well, here we are 44 years later. The lawsuits have exploded. They're almost half of all lawsuits in the state of Michigan are now car accident lawsuits. And we've got the highest rates in the country. So for 20 years, folks have been working on fixing this. And today is what I believe is the best chance in a generation to finally put our differences aside and get real rate relief for Michigan drivers. And that's what we're trying to do. What our proposal today is driver's choice. We want you, when you insure a car, to have a choice, just like everybody has when they buy health insurance in this country. And to say, I want to thank a number of people here today. Speaker Leonard, Chair Theis, the bipartisan group that stood up, and I especially want to acknowledge the 6 Democrats who are standing here, because these aren't easy issues, and at times everybody wants to be polarized, and it's a courageous thing to stand up and say, I'm going to represent my constituents first. But I want to thank Representative Sylvia Santana, Representative Leslie Love, Representative Wendell Birds, Representative Phil Phelps, Scott Diandi, as the speaker mentioned. He left the Upper Peninsula at 2:30 a.m. and is driving. He said, please talk slowly. He will be here shortly. And State Senator Ian Conyers. We have... So, why are rates so high? I'm going to try and basically just talk off the cuff. And we planned for me to have a couple of easels right here, but the coalition got much larger than what we had anticipated. So I'm going to have to kind of work around it a little bit. But I'm going to show you why we have the issues that we have. And the big issue is how much medical care providers are being paid. When no-fault passed in 1973, there were no HMOs, there were no PPOs. Doctors and hospitals could charge usual and customary charges. In 44 years, the only people who now pay anywhere in America usual and customary charges, medical providers, are drivers in the state of Michigan. It's the only place that hasn't caught up. And so this will also be in your press packet, but here's the reality. I ran a hospital system for 9 years. I understand this really well. If you go in for an MRI today, at the average hospital or clinic in Michigan, Medicare will pay them $484. If you walk in to that same clinic for that same MRI on most commercial insurance, it averages about $770. Those office managers always smile when they see that Blue Cross card, and there's a reason for that. But if you go in and you're on car insurance, that same MRI is paid $3,259. That is what is driving up your car insurance rates. And the same thing's true of CT scans, the same thing is true of physical therapy. And so I've been on both sides of this, okay? 2012, I was running the Detroit Medical Center, and I was a leader in the Michigan Hospital Association when the bill came up. And at the Michigan Hospital Association, we opposed the changes for two reasons back then. One, there was no guaranteed rate cut. What we said was, if you're going to roll back the rates being paid to the hospitals and the doctors, and the insurance companies are going to pocket the money, that's not fair. We want to make sure that if the rates go down for hospitals, that the drivers get the break. There was no guaranteed rate rollback in that bill, which is a huge reason why MHA was against it. As I'll talk about in a minute, we fixed that. There is a guaranteed rate rollback. Here was the second thing that was going on in 2012 when I was a leader on the other side. In 2012, there were huge numbers of uninsured in Michigan. Almost 20% of Michigan residents were uninsured. So if you ran a hospital with an emergency room, you had a large number of people you weren't being paid for. And a lot of the emergency room hospitals in this state in 2012 were struggling just to stay afloat. And so all the hospital CEOs were morally bothered by this. We know that was wrong. But we were troubled about what would happen in keeping our places open. When this legislature passed Healthy Michigan, which is in effect now, there are 600,000 Michigan residents insured today that were not insured in 2012. The hospitals that were losing money in their emergency rooms are now doing very well. In fact, there's hundreds of millions of dollars more going to the hospital's bottom line than 5 years ago. Now that's a good thing. The hospitals deserve that. They were providing the care. But I want to ask for the support of my former colleagues, the hospital CEOs. I haven't met a hospital CEO yet who doesn't care about the community they're serving. We know this is wrong. The taxpayers of this state and this country have supported the hospitals with hundreds of millions in uninsured. It's now time for the hospitals to step back and say, thank you for that support. It's time that we support the drivers in this state, because every one of these hospitals has got people making $12 an hour, pushing a wheelchair, working in the cafeteria, being a nurse's assistant, who is driving to work looking over their shoulder because they can't afford insurance. And so I am hopeful before this is over. We can bring the hospitals in, and maybe if we really succeed, even my friend Kevin McKinney and CPAN will join us. We're going to try to reach out to everybody in this process. So, first thing we're proposing is a fee schedule that medical providers will be paid at Medicare rates. Hospitals will be paid at 125% of medical rates, which is above Blue Cross. So it's a fair payment for the service. So our first key point is we'll put in a fee schedule. And if we said to the hospitals, we're willing to negotiate what the right fee schedule is, we think that's a fair starting point. Second, we are going to give drivers actual choice in the amount of health insurance they buy. So, all right, we like choice. If you work for a large employer, you almost for sure have choice. You might have Blue Cross Traditional, you might have an HMO, you might have a PPO. Most employees have choice. The legislature would never pass a law that said to the companies in this state, you either provide unlimited expensive coverage for all your employees or you provide nothing, right? Nobody here would vote for that. But that's what we have on car insurance. People like me who believe in the Affordable Care Act, what Obamacare has done, which has dramatically cut the uninsured. If you go on to the hospital, the healthcare.gov website today, and enroll as 300,000 Michigan residents have in the exchange, you have choice. You have the bronze level, you have the silver level, you have the gold level. You buy what you can afford. Nobody here would support a bill that said that under the Affordable Care Act, you can either buy the most expensive insurance, you get nothing at all. You give people choice. The only place in America people don't have choice when they buy health care is car insurance. Our law says you have to buy unlimited coverage at whatever hospitals and doctors want to charge forever. And what we're saying is we're not taking anything away from anybody. We're going to have choice. And so we are providing in this bill that every insurer will have to offer 3 options to everybody who drives. One is unlimited coverage, exactly what you have today. It is guaranteed to be offered. Nothing is being taken away from anybody. Second, an option that says you're covered to $500,000 of your medical cost. And third, an option that says you're covered to $250,000. This is the way it works in the other 49 states, is some portion is paid for by the car insurance. After you hit that amount, it goes over to your Blue Cross, to your Health Alliance plan, to veterans, to Obamacare, whatever the case may be. And so at the $250,000 level, I want you to have a sense of what we are doing. I would never support a plan that shorts the injured drivers in this state. And so here is the rest of America. Here's what all the state laws require drivers in America to buy in health care insurance, what's called PIP or PIP. What's required to buy in health care in order to drive. 38 states, there's no requirement at all. You can rely on your own health insurance or you can buy some amount to your car. Utah says you got to buy $3,000 of health care coverage. New York says you got to buy $50,000 of health coverage with your car insurance. New Jersey is the highest in America, requires you to buy $250,000 of health care with your car insurance. The only state in America that's unlimited is Michigan, which is why we are far and away the highest. There's no coincidence. What we're saying now is drivers in Michigan, every single driver will have 3 choices. $250, tied for the highest in the country, $500, and unlimited. There is no reasonable person can look at that and say, that's not reasonable choice. And with that, interestingly, we get our third piece, which is guaranteed rate rollback. And this bill, right? This bill has a guaranteed rate rollback of 40% of your PIP, your personal insurance. To the average driver in this state, that is a 20% rate rollback if you've got comprehensive coverage. So if you buy full coverage, theft, collision, everything, you'll have an average rate rollback of 20% and a protection in the bill against the rates being raised for 5 years in a way that would infringe on that savings. So we got a 5-year protection on rate increases. If you are a driver who only buys the basic And a third of Michigan drivers buy basic, which means no collision, no theft. They're driving a clunker, they're not going to spend $4,000 to insure a car that's worth $2,000. If you're buying the basic, your insurance rate reduction will be 50%. So those drivers who just need that car to get to work, you're talking about a 50% rate reduction. So that's our third piece. We've got a fee schedule, we've got true choice, and we've got a guaranteed rate rollback. Here's the fourth piece, and maybe the thing that I find most offensive of all, is that the senior citizens in this state, the people on Medicare, are getting ripped off to the tune of $800 to $1,000 a year. In the other 49 states in America, if you are a senior citizen on Medicare and you get in a car accident, Medicare pays your health coverage. You're set for life. They pay your hospital, they pay your long-term rehab. You earned Medicare in the course of your life. The federal Medicare law says Medicare is secondary. If something else covers it first, they have to pay. The only place in America that has passed a law to say to their seniors, Medicare is not going to pay, you got to pay for it first, is car insurance in Michigan. We've made car insurance primary of our Medicare. So the average senior citizen in this state is paying $800 to $1,000 per year in medical coverage they don't need. And we've got folks up here that are police officers, firefighters, and the like. The same is true of retirees. We got Jimmy Settles, who had a great career in the UAW here. If you retire as an auto worker, as a school teacher, as a police officer, and you retire with health care for life, why are you buying health care a second time in your car insurance? And so we are proposing anybody over the age of 62 who has retiree health care, you're set for life. We'll put $800 to $1,000 back in your pocket. Every retired teacher, the great majority of retired auto workers, and many others will no longer have to double pay. I don't know whether did we pass out our press packets already?
Yeah.
Okay, so you should have these, so they're in your packet. But here's what we're going to do. Because all anybody really cares about is how does this affect me? And so I'm going to show you how to calculate how it affects you. And in a couple days, we'll have a website up. So every person in Michigan can go on and see exactly how much the bill saves them. But if you are an average driver, what's going to happen is this. There are two lines on your bill that are going to get reduced. PIP, your personal injury protection, and MCCA, the catastrophic. For the average driver, those rates are coming down 40% guaranteed in the statute. And so we just picked somebody here. Here was somebody who had $2,000. That was a 6-month policy. You got to look to see whether you're 6 months or a year. Currently, they're paying $673 on PIP. You can actually see the line, personal injury protection. They're paying $82 for MCCA. You can see the line right there. If you take 40% off, you can see it's a $300 savings for half a year, or for the entire year, it's $604. Now, the average savings is going to be 20%, but we just grabbed two bills last night and blew them up. This one happens to be a 15% savings. Every single person in this state can today, if you pull out your bill, just take your personal injury protection and your MCCA, reduce it by 40%, and you will know exactly how much you're going to save. If you are on Medicare, or if you're a senior citizen who's 62 who has retiree health care, the savings are astonishing. It'll be an average of a 35% savings. But again, take you through the same math. Here's a senior citizen right now with a bill of $1,700 for the year. Their PIP is $569, and these are all in your packets. Their MCCA is $82. If you are on Medicare, you get an 85% cut. You don't have to double buy anymore. This person's savings is $553 for half a year, or 32%. For an entire year, this senior citizen saves $1,100. But I will tell you across the state, whether you're Traverse City or Grand Rapids or Flint, it's going to be $800 to $1,000 for every senior on Medicare and every retiree over 62. We have a chance to do something really important. And so That's why we're all here today. Our hands are out to MHA, to the trial lawyers, to CPAD. We want to work with everybody, but we just can't keep charging people money for health care they don't need. It's just wrong. And we can't be paying $3,200 an MRI. It's just wrong. Everybody knows it's wrong. A couple of thank yous, and I'll introduce the next speaker, but I want to thank Scott Hummel, Megan Reckling from the House staff, Dave Masseron from our staff. These folks have put in hours and hours, day and night. The actual bill itself is a remarkable achievement, and I want to thank them. And then, thank you very much. And with that, I want to turn it over to somebody who got elected to the legislature in this last year, promising to come to Lansing and finally fight to get car insurance costs reduced. Our great representative, Sylvia Santana.
Good morning, everyone. Last night at my town hall that I hosted on auto insurance rates in my district, members of my community demanded that I take action on this issue, and that is why I'm committed to finding a solution. I represent 3 of the top poverty-stricken zip codes in the state of Michigan, and the highest zip code of insurance rates in the nation, 48227. I cannot stand by and watch legislators take political positions while people in my district are suffering. And let's face it, they have high auto insurance rates, no insurance, they're using a suburban address, they have out-of-state address, or they're stuck with oppressive driver responsibility fees, which ultimately leads to them driving dirty because Lansing lacks the courage to actually find a solution. Today, we begin to step to developing a solution, and I am proud to work with Mayor Duggan and also the speaker and everyone here today. As the representative of the city of Detroit, I stand by in support of the speaker, as well as Mayor Duggan and this bipartisan effort to resolve the issues of high auto insurance and also the rates in the state. I am in support of a legislative process, and I hope that the negotiations will continue, that all interested parties will continue to communicate in a professional and honest manner. My office is open to anyone who proposes reasonable solutions in this challenging subject. This insurance, the insurance rates for car drivers in Michigan must be lowered, and for that sake, I hope for all the residents in the state of Michigan as well. So with that said, I just want to take an opportunity to introduce our next speaker, Black Caucus Foundation Director, Dr. K.B. Stallworth.
Thank you, Representative Santana. As the ranking senior citizen in the room, I've been asked to provide really a perspective on this. First of all, let me say this is a good bill. And the reason I say that is because it not only moves the envelope for working families, but it creates a pathway to drive a process that is really an impediment to workforce development. This legislature has been very, very focused and supportive, bringing skilled trades, a capability to the residents of Michigan as we retool our economy. But an unaffordable driver's training class, parking tickets that result in cars being towed and impounded, things that stop working families, returning citizens, and new entrants into the workforce from being a reliable trainee, apprentice, or employee. We need to do something to stop. At the core of this is the cost of auto insurance. It is a heavy cost for working families, and it is an unbearable cost for an apprentice and a new entry into the workplace. And so as members think about this, I want you to think about this is not a panacea to all of the problems that relate to family households' finances. It's not a panacea for workforce development, but it does provide this legislature with a clear path for ongoing policy work that relates to making work access and reliability affordable. Lastly, I want to share just a couple of things. As someone that came to Lansing in 1980, and my mother was here 10 years prior to that, I knew Matt McNeely very well. And what most people may not remember is not only were there no African American staffers on central staff in either chamber, Democrat, Republican, House, or Senate. The only staffers were staffers that were in members of the Black Caucus. And I'm sharing this because sometimes members in working on policies had to use an opportunity to push the envelope to provide something for their constituents. Essential insurance was not only essential because members were attempting to make it affordable, but at that time in my community, many of the working families had no health insurance. Not only did they not have health insurance, they weren't admitted to all hospitals. People from my generation were born in public municipal hospitals, like Herman Kiefer. We did not have access to the traditional system. Now, this was not something Matt McNeely or Dave Holmes could openly talk about, but the members that worked with them on both sides of the aisle understood that if those workers were injured in a car accident and the hospitals knew they would be paid, those consumers would have access to health care. Now, I'm sharing this for a reason. It's an incremental process to develop a good statute. You don't solve everything at one time. 1980 is not that long ago. It really is not that long ago. When former Secretary of State Dick Austin founded North Lawn Cemetery, he wasn't doing that just because he wanted to go into that business, but as Michigan's first CPA, he had so many of his clients that could not be buried in dignity. These are not often things that in a term-limited legislature members would know. I mean, some people like Tim Skupik, he was a teenager, so he would remember. But it's an important thing, I think, that you all understand when you have a speaker and a mayor and House leadership that have come together with a serious plan to move the envelope. You seize the opportunity. You won't fix everything, but it is an important element to making sure we not only provide an affordable relief option for Michigan families, but we are now keeping our word and trying to really work hard to provide work readiness for new entrants, returning citizens, and those families that are really struggling to be a reliable employee in Michigan's workforce. With that, I'd like to introduce the U of M Regent, Mark Bernstein.
So while I look at this assembly of this coalition, there's not many of you I would want on one of my juries. But I'm very pleased to be partners with you in this very, very important work. I also want to recognize a colleague of mine, Ron Weiser. I always tell people I love Ron Weiser. I have a love-hate relationship with Ron. I love him, and I hate myself for it. I don't know if you're back there, but this truly is a bipartisan effort. We have been at this for a long time, for over almost 13 years, wearing my trial lawyer hat, recognizing the urgent and important need to reform auto no fault. And I'm thrilled that I think we're at the moment when this is most likely to occur. It is, every time we would make some progress on this, we would hit a brick wall. And the trial lawyers would win, quote unquote, and the medical providers would win, and the insurance companies would win. And all the while, it was accident victims and drivers and people across the state who were just simply losing. And they were getting stuck with the bill, literally getting stuck with the bill. And it was a big bill, the biggest bill in America. And so the opportunity here is apparent. The contours of this deal are thoughtful and predict, I think, success in this effort. I want to say that as a trial lawyer, it is part of this that oftentimes gets overlooked, is the heartbreaking circumstance where 50% of the people who contact us in the city of Detroit or in Flint have no case at all. They're driving uninsured. The current laws you've heard criminalizes the average person who just needs to drive to work or drop their kid at school, and they're forced to make this decision between driving dirty, as someone mentioned, and paying $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 for their auto insurance. That's just absolutely unsustainable, and it's a social justice and a civil rights issue. That's, I think, why there are civil rights and social justice activists in front of you today. But we have to tell these people who, in some instances, have lost a loved one that they have absolutely no case. They don't have first-party benefits, and they have no case against the at-fault driver. And across the state, where the rate of uninsured driving is not 50%, but 15, 20% or so, it is a problem that we all share and we all have to address. The second thing I wanted to say, wearing a trial lawyer hat, is I applaud the inclusion in this of language that brings certainty and stability on the third-party side, the threshold injury that someone needs to suffer. We've been on this Supreme Court roller coaster since no fault was established, and this gives people that kind of certainty and stability that is necessary to proceed. So I'm thrilled to be here. I'm honored to be a part of this coalition, and I'm very much looking forward to this being successful. Thank you. I want to now turn this over to Rick Studley, probably the first time anyone has introduced you.
Thank you, Mark. I'm Rich Studley, President and CEO of the Michigan Chamber. We represent over 6,500 job providers throughout the state. We represent employers from Detroit to Dowagiac, from Niles to Negaunee. And I'm here today to encourage and support and stand with Mayor Duggan and the Speaker and other legislative leaders who are here today who are saying enough is enough. Democrats and Republicans and independents in our state are understandably frustrated with Congress and the President and what happens or doesn't happen in Washington, D.C., where people talk and talk and talk, and then they talk some more, and then they talk past each other, and then they go on vacation. Michigan is the Great Lakes state. Together, we can do great things. As I travel across the state, the 6,500 job providers that we represent employ over 1 million Michigan residents in union and non-union jobs, Democrats, Republicans, and independents. And there's not a member of the legislature who at one time or another hasn't listened to a motorist with a problem and said, we'll go to work on that. This has been an issue in Michigan. We have seen it grow from a small problem to a medium-sized problem to a large problem. We have seen it expand from a problem for some motorists here and there to many motorists in urban areas and then suburban areas and then rural areas. This is a statewide problem. The Michigan Chamber will stand with the Speaker and the Mayor. Michigan's motorists need auto insurance reform now, fair and balanced auto insurance reform. There are times when it is necessary and important to go to court. Write this down, Mark. When there are constitutional questions that need to be answered, or a state statute needs to be clarified. But the promise to Michigan's motorists was a no-fault system that is now clogged with unnecessary litigation that has become a cost of driving. We've listened to the mayor. We've listened to our members in the Detroit area and their employees. Thanks to Mayor Duggan, Detroit is working again, and we need to do this for working folks across the state. And so I'm here today to express the Michigan Chamber's strong support. In Lansing, when Democrats and Republicans and business and labor work together, we can do great things. At the Michigan Chamber, we worked with Democrats and Republicans and others, and a few years ago, we supported Healthy Michigan. The mayor made this point, and I want to re-emphasize it again. Here in Michigan, we have amazing doctors and hospitals that do extraordinary things every day. But what we have seen year after year after year is millions of Michigan's motorists needing action and reform, real reform now, not window dressing, and a handful of special interest groups who benefit or profit from the status quo blocking action. I would say to Democrats and Republicans on both sides of the aisle, we cannot let the perfect become the enemy of the good. We cannot talk and talk and talk like members of Congress. We have got to move forward together. To my friends in the majority, I would say being in the majority is about leading and making tough decisions. It is about negotiation and compromise. We need fair and balanced reform now. We need action now, not next month, not next year. And I do want to share one thing, again, at the risk of his reputation and mine, where I agree with the mayor.
Don't endorse me.
I want to share with you one of the charts, again, that the mayor highlighted. At the Michigan Chamber, when we supported Healthy Michigan, we did that with the intent, at the urging of hospitals, to substantially reduce uncompensated care, and that has happened. The business people we represent haven't seen a corresponding reduction in health insurance rates, but that's an issue for another day. But what happens when you have an injury at home or on the job, medical providers are compensated fairly in an affordable way. This chart is really at the heart of the issue and the breakthrough we need to make. This cost shifting, this overcharging is unnecessary, it is unfair, it is unreasonable, and it has to stop. So, I'm here today on behalf of Michigan's job providers and their employees and Michigan's motorists to say, let's work together now. And our pledge is we will stand with you. We will not let the perfect become the enemy of the good. We support the mayor and the speaker. Let's get going. It is now my opportunity, my honor, to introduce the Reverend Dr. Wendell Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Studley. Let me say good morning to everybody. This must be a hot and exciting issue because I've been sweating and I'm not even preaching. But I do want to thank the Speaker and Mayor Duggan. Mayor Duggan, in talking about this, seems almost reverendish in terms of the intensity and the passion that he has for this issue. And all those who are here, this bipartisan effort is different. It's not often that I stand amidst a sea of Republicans to the degree we're talking about commonalities, but it shows what you can do if you have the will to do. And I think therein lies a message. When we are standing here talking about the high insurance costs in Michigan, I rise to my 86-year-old mom, who is paying, just like your mamas and your grandmamas and daddies, too much money for insurance that's not necessary. I rise for her because she's not able to rise for herself here, and she's going to be happy about this reduction. I tell my members all the time, we're not perfect people, but we are some of God's best. This is not a perfect bill, but it is the best one that we have right now. And it opens the door to move us towards getting the perfection that we really need. It says that we recognize that in Michigan, people are paying too much. In the paper today, there's 100,000 folk who are losing licenses in Michigan. That means people who cannot drive to work, who cannot drive to church, who cannot drive in their community. And let me tell you what happens. When you don't have car insurance and you are in the community, you're afraid because you get picked up by the police and they bust you for not having car insurance. You may go to jail, you may get locked up, your car may be taken, you may lose your job, and other things can happen. We've seen that time and time again. So it is important that we recognize that we have an opportunity. Here in Lansing, I want to lift up the names of Irma Henderson and Marianne Mahaffey, because for years, Irma Henderson was leading the clarion call to bring down insurance rates in the city of Detroit, but really around the whole state. And let me say this for legislators. When we say Detroit, we don't mean absent other folk in Michigan. We mean very clearly everybody, because we know that if it's down in Detroit, it's going to be down everywhere else. But we're saying through this bill that this is for everyone. And Mr. Mayor and Mr. Speaker, I think it is good because now we are showing not only here in Michigan, but the nation how to be bipartisan. Because if we can be bipartisan here in Michigan on insurance, maybe somebody get the message to be bipartisan in the nation's capital about health care and some other things. I know it's hot here, but it's even hotter in Puerto Rico, unless we forget them. And so, Mr. Mayor, I'm pleased today, and wouldn't it be nice if we were able to give this to our mamas and grandparents as a Christmas present, to say underneath your tree is going to be an insurance reduction and a new thing for Christmas. I'm serious about this. Let's make this a Christmas present. Let's make this a happy Hanukkah gift. Let's make this something that our folk can use and need as we get out of here and deal with the issues of what I like being first, but I don't like being first in the last category of being able to have a rate reduction and the best possible program. So today, for those legislators who are not serious, who are not focused to the degree that they can make that connection, who are still sitting on the fence, we simply say give it a try. Work with this and make it better. Finally, there's an old African proverb that says it is only after you have opened the door can you see the opportunities that lie on the other side. This opens the door. Now we can see some opportunities to change and make some substantial policy. So I want to thank all those who have been part of this. Let's go out and let's get it done. My bad, I'm so excited, I forgot to introduce Mr. Tim Christensen. Let's give him a hand.
Well, I'm here to represent the typical Michigander citizen paying for auto insurance. I think there are 7 million of us licensed drivers in the state of Michigan. I was born in Southeast Michigan about the same time no-fault insurance was born, and I can speak with some perspective of experience. I am married, I have 4 children. I have an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old, both of whom are new drivers. We have 3 cars in our family that we insure. The 16-year-old is lobbying for a 4th car, but we frankly can't afford it. We can't afford to insure it. And so I think my experience is common for many who live in my area. I want to thank Representative Theis for inviting me, who live in her district, to represent those and also those across the state. I understand that our insurance is the highest in the country. After being raised in Michigan, I moved to California for work, and for many years in California, understood that we in California were the highest cost of living in just about every category that you could be as a result of the inefficiencies of the financial system in that state, as well as other factors in the economy there. And so a couple of years ago, when my family and I had the joy of moving back to Michigan, we were excited about a lot of things, being close to family, having the 4 seasons. But one of the things, frankly, we knew would happen is we would have lower cost of living in so many categories. What we didn't know was that our insurance rates for automobiles would go up 50% by moving from a state that's known for its high cost of living to a state where we were both born and raised. So we're thankful, and frankly it's refreshing that people from different sides of the aisle have come together to say we're going to work on behalf of our constituents, our residents of our districts. I want to thank you for that. And I want to say to our representatives in the legislature and in the state government here in Lansing that we really do expect you to work on our behalf to help bring relief to families like mine and so many others. So thank you in advance for working together to accomplish that. And that brings it back to our representative, Representative Theis.
Thank you, everybody. Can you see why we're all so incredibly excited about what it is that we're doing here? The partnerships that are moving forward, the opportunity that is moving forward is amazing. I am incredibly proud of this legislation. We have worked so hard to make it as good as we can, and the doors are wide open to bring as many people in who are willing to come in and help us actually create real rate reductions, real reform for the citizens of Michigan. I think that people are going to be really happy when they take a look and see what's in this bill and see how their rates are going to go down. I look forward to working with my colleagues on both sides of the fence to get this done, both sides of the aisle, in the House and in the Senate, to pass this much needed reform. And we are now available for questions. Thank you very much.